So this is also one of the WASSCE questions. So let's look at this problem. So this problem says at a picnic, the number of individuals who like rice balls is thrice the number who like yam balls. Those who like both types of food is one third those who like yam balls. So the question says we should illustrate the information in a Venn diagram. Also, if 139 out of the 1,382 persons at the picnic did not like any of two types of food, find the number of persons who like rice balls and also one type of food only. So this is a problem that we are to solve it. So in the first place, let's identify some key terms in the question. So it says the number of individuals who like rice balls. So we are looking at one item which is what? Rice balls. And it is what? Thrice the number of those who like what? Yam balls. Good. So let's identify this. And it further states that those who also like both types of food. So both types of food is also what? One third that of those who like what? Yam balls. Good. And in additional information, we also have 139 out of what? The 1,382 persons. So we are looking at this information. Okay, so once we have been able to identify these requirements, then we can go ahead and solve this problem. Okay, so let's look at the first sentence. So at a picnic, the number of individuals who like rice balls is thrice the number who like yam. So we will use letters to represent rice balls and then yam balls. But which letter do we use? So in this case, for rice balls, we are going to use capital R. I will use capital R to represent rice balls. Then I'll use capital Y to represent yam balls. Good. So once this question states that those who like rice balls is what? Thrice the number who like yam. So when we say thrice, you know what we mean by thrice. So it means that three times. Have you gotten that? So three times of those who like what? Yam. But do we know those who like yam? We don't know. So in this case, we can use any alphabet to represent number of persons who like yam. So I can say, okay, so we are using, so number of people, so I'm using capital Y to represent number of persons who like what? Yam. Have you gotten that? So because we don't know, so we are using what? X, because we don't know. So I will use X to represent number of persons who like what? Yam. I said the Y stand for what? Those who like what? Yam. So number of those who like yam is what? X, because we don't know. Have you gotten that? Okay. Then we also use what? Capital R to represent those who like what? Rice. So number of those who like rice. The question says those who like rice is what? Thrice the number of those who like yam. Once we know that those who like yam is X, then we can say that then those who like rice is 3x, because we are saying thrice. So if thrice, it means 3 times. Have you gotten that? Good. So number of those who like rice is what? 3x. All right. Now let's also look at the next sentence. And we are saying those who like both what types of food is 1/3. Those who like yam. We have already represented those who like yam as what? X. And we are saying those who like what? Both of them. So both of them we can um use this. So number of what? Those who like both of them. So y intersection what? R. Good. So I know you understand all these notations, because when we were doing two set problem and three set problem, we we talked about all these notations. So I know you understand. But make sure in your question, if you are answering the question, you have to make sure you define them. So I said we are using y to represent what? Number of um persons who like yam. So when you are answering, you have to define it. So you say let y represent persons who like yam. Let R represent persons who like what? Rice. So after defining it, before you can write what I have written, have you gotten that? So my own is just a summary. So, my dear learners, whenever you are answering such questions, you have to define it, you have to write it. I've just summarized it. Have you gotten that? So, in exams, I don't expect you to just go ahead and write what I have written, because if you write this, because I am speaking and I'm explaining, that's why I've told you that I'm using Y to represent yam. But if you do this in the exams, nobody will know what you mean by Y or R. So you can say maybe let Y represent what? Number of persons that like what? Yam. The same thing applies to what? The R. Have you gotten that? All right. So let's continue. So we said that in the question, it also further states that those who like both types of food is 1/3 of those who like yam. So 1/3 of those who like yam. So 1/3 of those who like what? Yam is X. We know that why those who like yam is what? X. So 1/3 of what? X. Have you gotten that? Good. And note also that there's additional information here, which also states that 139 out of this. Now, before we even continue, in this whole problem, what will be the total number of individuals or persons at the picnic? So it is clearly what stated here, because it is saying that if 139 out of the 1,382 persons, so it means that the total number of persons or individuals present at the picnic is what? 1,382. So we can see what our NU, that's the universal set, is equal to what? 1,382. Have you gotten that? Yes, so that is our U. Okay, all right. So let's come back to the 139. So the 139, we are also saying that out of this number, they did not like any of the two what types of the food. So you know the notation to use. So we can also write this as number of those who do not like. So y, you can say y complement intersection r complement. Have you gotten that? Good. It's also equal to what? It means that these are the people who did not like any of the items. Have you gotten that? Right? Okay. So we can write 139 here. Good. So once we have been able to gather all this information, then we can represent it in a Venn diagram, because that is what the first question what asked us to do. So let's represent this in a Venn diagram. So I will draw my Venn diagram nicely here. I will draw it here because we are talking about only two items. So we have this diagram. We are talking about only two items, and these two items are what? Yam and rice. So number we can represent here as number of what? Yam, which is equal to what? X, and number of what? Rice, which is equal to 3x. Then both, we know that we can represent here as both what? Items, which is also what? 1/3 x. And then the universal set, we get what? 1382. Good. And remember that we said those who did not like, so we can put it outside these two circles. So we can get 139 outside. But how do we get this portion? So we only want to subtract this from this and this from this. So we can get here as x minus 1/3 x, and here is also 3x minus 1/3 x. Great. So once we are able to do this, so this answers the first question, because the question said we should represent this in a Venn diagram. Okay. All right. So once we have this, we can go ahead and look at the next question. So the next question says we should find what? Rice balls. But how do we get rice balls? Rice balls is what? 3x. So we are looking at, but do we know x? We don't know x. So how can we find x? So what we'll do is we only what? Sum everything here and equate to the total number of what? Persons present at the picnic. So I will just write x here, this one, minus 1/3 x plus this x plus this 3x minus 1/3 x plus, because we have this one also, so we'll add that one, plus 9, which is equal to 1382. Good. So since we have here, this is positive, this is positive, this is negative, so we can cross this out. Have we gotten that? Then we have this. Okay. All right. So this plus this, so x. So x plus what? 3x gives us what? 4x minus 1/3 x plus 109. 139 is equal to 1382. Okay. So what we do is if we can clear this fraction, so if we are clearing this fraction, then we can multiply through by 3, which will give us what? 12x minus x plus so 417, which is equal to 4146. So if we subtract this from this, so let's group items. So we can get here as 11x is equal to so if we subtract this, so we get 4146 minus 401 7 for 417. So we have 11x, which is equal to, so let's subtract this from this, we get what? 3000 rather, so 3729. Then we can divide both sides by 11, then we get x to be what? 300 39. So our x is 339. So that means the number of persons who like yam is what? 339. But the question asks us to find rice balls. So how do we find rice balls? So we said rice balls, that's the number of r is equal to what? 3x. But we know 3x as what? So we know x as 339. So we only do substitution. Good. So 339 is times what? 3 will give us what? 1017. Good. So we get 1017. Have you gotten that? Yes. So it means that the number of persons or individuals who like rice balls is 1017. Good. So this answers the rice balls. So let's look at the last question, which also says we should find the number of persons who like one type of what? Food only. So let's identify in the diagram which part is those who like one type of food only. So if you look at this portion here, if you look at this portion here and this portion here, this portion, these two portions are what? The only people or the only persons that like what? Only one type of what? Food. So we will only do substitution. Since we have calculated for x, we only do what? Substitution there. So we have x minus 1/3 x plus 3x minus 1/3 x. So we are only going to do what? Substitution. We know x as this. So or let's even okay, let's do the substitution. So we know that we have here as 339 minus 1/3 339 plus 3 into what? 339. So let me continue from here. Minus then we have 339. Good. So if you calculate for this, then you are getting 1130. Good. So it means that those who like only one type of food is what? 1130. So this is the answers to the whole problem. So situations like this, you need to take your time and identify the key points in the question before you start working. Other than that, you are going to get the whole problem wrongly. So whenever you are doing such questions, take your time, read it, get the understanding before you start. All right. So we'll meet next time. Thank you.